Whipple Family Misadventures Book 11 Between the Light and the Darkness Chapter 7. Silver didn't understand. When he woke up, the sun was in his eyes, and then he remembered that he had gone to his dad's room in the middle of the night. Letting out a big yawn, he came out from under the blanket and wandered out toward the living room. The house was quiet. His dad had gone off to work like usual, but Melissa always came over and she wasn't there. Maybe his dad thought he could be by himself while he was at work and didn't need her to come over anymore. That was sad. He liked Melissa a lot. Silver hoped no one else would leave. He didn't like this at all. It was rather lonely and extremely empty. Reaching for the remote, he switched on the TV. Just so there was some noise so it didn't feel like he was alone. Getting up to get some oatmeal, his dad would never know he was eating in the living room and not at the table. He settled down to eat breakfast and watch cartoons before he figured out what to do for the rest of the day. There was a beep sound that didn't come from the TV. Silver's ears perked and he looked around, trying to figure out where it came from, but he couldn't tell where exactly. A few minutes later, he heard it again. Switching off the TV so he could listen better, when he heard it a third time, it was clearly coming from the kitchen on the counter. Silver had barely gone over to look when he realized it was his dad's phone, and it started to ring. The screen flashed a silly picture of Tom, along with his name. Unsure of what to do, Silver just stared at the sleek black compact phone. He wasn't sure why his dad had left his phone behind. He took it everywhere with him, claiming it was his lifeline to the world. One time they just had to run a quick errand to the post office, and his dad turned around before they reached the end of the street because he left his phone behind. Silver also knew that he wasn't supposed to touch it, ever. That was extremely important. Maybe it was a test. His dad wanted to see if he had forgotten the rule when he was alone by himself. He didn't think that was a very nice thing to do, especially when Shadow had run away and everything was so sad. Dropping back to the floor, Silver backed away from the counter. The gray hedgehog returned to the couch and was trying to use his psychokinesis to pull a bit of spilled oatmeal out of the cushions when the phone started to ring again. And rang and rang and rang. His dad would be proud to know that even when everything else was going wrong, he wouldn't break the rules and turn the TV back on while he finished eating. 10 minutes later, Silver was wondering what to do for the next several hours. Being home alone was boring. It reminded him too much of before he had come to Earth. He had been alone for so long. It felt like lifetimes without seeing another person, and that wasn't something he wanted to go back to. Out of nowhere, he heard a car pull into their driveway. Eyes wide, Silver listened as someone ran up the front porch and started banging on the front door.
Wade, are you there?
Tom yelled from outside. Hopping down, Silver approached the door.
He's at work.
Great. Silver, can you open the door?
Okay.
Silver said, as that was okay to do. He could open the door to Tom or Maddie when their dad wasn't here. It took him a moment, but he unlocked the big lock, and then the little one in the knob, and pulled on the door. Tom was dressed in his uniform and came into the house right away.
Hey, dude, where's your dad? Are you sure he's not here?
Confused, Silver just tilted his head to the left.
No. I thought he went to work.
Not believing him, Tom walked through the entire house, calling for Wade as Silver followed after him at his heels. After he checked each of the rooms and the garage, he went outside and walked around the perimeter of the house before coming back in the front door.
When was the last time you saw him?
Last night. He's not at work?
Tom looked away, and that was when Silver knew something bad had happened.
Well, his car is still here and he's not answering his phone.
Silver glanced toward the kitchen.
It's in there.
At that, Tom all but ran into the kitchen and picked up the phone.
Why didn't you answer when it rang?
Because I'm not supposed to touch it.
A moment of searching and Tom found Wade's keys and his wallet as well. Cradling all three in his hands, he just looked deeply worried.
I need to tell Maddie.
Tom muttered, taking out his own phone and began texting a message. Realization suddenly came over the little gray hedgehog about what was truly going on, and he sank down to the floor under the weight of it all. This is what he had been fearing, and now it actually was a possibility, not just a horrible thought that lurked in the back of his mind.
Oh no, it's happening again.
Tom knelt over him.
What is? Wade's disappeared before?
No, everyone leaves me and I'm all alone again. That's happened before.
Silver whined, feeling the moisture of tears in his eyes.
Hey, no. Your dad loves you and your brother more than anything. And I've known him for a long, long time. He would not just leave, especially not without his wallet and his phone and his car. I don't know where he is, but I am very sure he didn't just walk away and abandon you. This isn't normal. And you're definitely not alone.
Swiping at his face, Silver allowed himself to be pulled toward Tom into a hug and pushed his face into Tom's shoulder.
How about, while I try to figure out where your dad went, you can hang out with us at my house? Instead of you just sitting here alone, how does that sound?
Tom said softly, standing up after a few moments. That didn't sound very appealing. Silver didn't want to go over to their house. He wanted to be here in case his dad or Shadow came back. Tom and Sonic and Maddie were nice, they were family, but it wasn't the same. However, he didn't feel like he had much of a choice and nodded glumly. Tom smiled, although it looked rather forced.
Alright, you go pack everything you'll need for a few days, just in case. Then we'll lock up the house and head out.
Are we going to your house?
Not yet. No one's at home except Ozzy, so you'll come to the station with me for now. But we'll figure something out.
With a great sigh, Silver went to go collect his plush, his toothbrush and a few pairs of clean socks, made sure to water his plants and then followed Tom out of the house as he locked both the doors and they left. Shadow knew something was wrong when Doom stopped paying that much attention to him. One moment he was being held still as Doom invaded his thoughts, pulling answers out like it was nothing. And then the alien paused, clearly focused on something else. If Shadow had been able to move, he would have been trying to escape. But whatever Doom had used to paralyze him was still working. Even without Doom focused on him, the absolutely terror was still there. Shadow still couldn't believe that he had thought this was a good idea. He never should have come here.
I got him, Eclipse. Come get your brother and be out of sight, but close enough that he can hear. I want him to know firsthand the disloyalty of humans and how they would actually treat him.
Ever obedient, the Darkling grabbed Shadow without another word and dragged him into the corner, so they couldn't see Doom or what was happening. His ears perked. Shadow could only wonder and worry about what was going to happen next, about what Doom was talking about. There was another flash of bright light, meaning chaos control had happened and Shadow's heart started to pound.
What's going on? Where am I?
Wait, it wasn't enough that Doom was being cruel to him, he had to take it one step further. To be cruel to one of the few people who had been kind to him, had taken care of him when he had been lost, hungry, confused, who had shown him patience, kindness and love when he needed it the most. And now Shadow was repaying him with this. For several overwhelming seconds, Shadow felt the deep urge to just completely tune everything out, something he hadn't done in a while. When things got too stressful in the past, he just mentally went away. And at the moment it was extremely tempting. But by sheer force of will and knowing that if he did, it might be a while before he came back and that was dangerous, he managed to stay present.
Kneel, human. You are in the presence of Black Doom. I am the leader of the Black Arms, the supreme being who rules this universe.
Doom proclaimed, his voice echoing against the walls of the chamber. There was a short pause.
What?
I said kneel.
There was a rough sound and Shadow could only hope that Wade was listening to him, not trying to go against Doom's orders. If only he could see what was going on, but Doom didn't want Wade to see him.
Better. Do you know why you are here?
When Wade spoke again, his voice sounded rough.
No.
So, I can enjoy watching you die.
Doom sneered. Those words chilled Shadow to his core. If only he could move, if only he could say anything. He would have begged. Not Wade, he needed Wade.
A long time ago, I made a bargain for a powerful weapon that I would be able to use. And then he disappeared without a trace. All that hard work, and planned, wasted. Only recently, he reappeared in your care, deeply attached to you. Not interested in the great plan I've had for him.
For a moment, the Dark Hedgehog was wondering why Doom wasn't just pulling the answers out of Wade's mind like he had previously done to him, and then remembered what Doom had said, because he wanted Shadow to hear this.
What?
Shadow. He doesn't want anything to do with me, he only wants to return to you. A pathetic, worthless human that I just wanted to see for myself.
For a few moments, all Shadow could hear was Wade's hurried breathing.
So you have him, that's where he went. Maybe you should have tried being kind, treating him well. recognizing that he's not a weapon to be used, but a person.
Silence.
There was a horrible gagging sound that the sound alone made it feel like fear was eating away at Shadow's insides.
Why do you want him back? I see all the trouble he's caused you. The recent pain, I can sense that. Why do you want a child that causes nothing but misery for you?
Nothing but misery.
Wade slowly repeated, his voice becoming strained.
Exactly. Why go to all that trouble?
There was a short pause.
Because he needs someone.
There was a deep growl of frustration.
You're making him soft, ruining all of my hard work. He's a weapon. He was supposed to have a glorious purpose and grow strong, not lounging around playing with feeble toys.
Maybe those feeble toys are what he actually needs.
Those words hit Shadow hard, hearing the two of them go back and forth. It was so clear who actually cared about him and wanted the best for him. Wade didn't know he was here. Didn't know that he could hear everything that was happening, but even against that terrifying and scary person, he was holding out. There were a few seconds without either of them saying anything before Doom began to speak again.
You don't even want him. It would be easier for you if he wasn't there. You barely know or care about him.
That's not true.
Doom snarled.
It is.
I don't know why you're trying to get me to say that I don't love or care about my son, but I won't.
Wade said softly. There was a hiss.
He's not your son and you don't want him anymore.
I love my son.
Wade said repeatedly, his voice full of strain.
I always will. I love and care about him deeply.
He began to pant.
And you can't convince me otherwise.
Whatever Doom had used to keep him from moving was wearing off. Even though Shadow couldn't see Wade, he started to struggle. Hearing that he was still wanted and loved and cared about, after all that happened made him want to get out of here and just go back home. He let out a thin whine. Even after hurting him and Silver, after running away, and even though Wade didn't know that the reason why he was going through this mess was because of Shadow, Wade still wanted him. Doom must have heard that, because there was a roar of displeasure.
Both of you leave now.
Moving immediately, Eclipse dragged Shadow out into the corridor right away. As soon as he could, Shadow yanked his arm away. As the feeling returned to his limbs, he felt relieved that he could speak again as well. Probably because he was away from Doom and had something to hold on to now.
What are you doing?
What he told us to. You want to get something to eat?
Shadow gritted his teeth. He hadn't forgotten what had been said in there, especially those few important revelations.
No. How could you?
What do you mean? How could I? What did you want me to do back there? Rush over and try to stop him? I know that you don't know that much about how things work around here, but I couldn't exactly do that.
He said that you meddled in my mind. How?
It wasn't on purpose, don't worry. And he got it mostly wrong. I wouldn't do that to you.
The dark hedgehog was getting so furious he started shaking from it. The fact that now Eclipse was trying to walk back what was being said earlier. While he didn't know the full extent of what had happened to him as a young hoglet in a lab, he knew that they had done horrible things and he was sick of it happening, not wanting it again.
No, you said you had to do it. I heard you. And then you wouldn't help me, even though you said I could trust you.
Eclipse held up both hands in what looked like it was supposed to be a gesture of peace.
You can.
That's not how you treat family members.
Then how are you supposed to treat family members?
The Darkling demanded, putting his clawed hands on his hips, his tone almost mocking.
Because I don't think you understand it either. You're acting like I was supposed to go against our father because you were unhappy.
Shadow narrowed his eyes.
They're supposed to take care of each other. My real dad told me that.
Your real dad, the human.
Something changed behind Eclipse's eyes. As it seemed like he came to that realization, a fury washed over him. He took a step toward Shadow, menacing.
After all I've done for you, after how much I tried to help you. Fine, I'm done then. I thought you were better than this.
He snarled before he stormed off. For a few wild seconds, Shadow felt horrible and wanted to chase after him, wanted to apologize for what he had just said and done, to promise that he wouldn't do it again. And then he blinked in amazement, wondered why he wanted to do that. He barely knew Eclipse, it had only been a few days. And while the Darkling had helped him out in some ways, like helping him learn more about his powers, he also had been pretty terrible to him, and had tried to make him think his real family didn't love him, had tricked him into coming here and hadn't helped him when he needed it. Shadow had started having suspicions about what kind of person Eclipse was earlier, when he had talked about the black arms being superior, whatever that meant, but this just seemed to confirm it. The Darkling wasn't helping him, he was only making things worse. Shadow realized he didn't owe this person anything. Even though they shared blood, it didn't make them an instant family. He had thought that he wanted to find people who were related to him, who were like him. And he had only to figure something out. He had been with his real family back on Earth this whole time. Wade and Silver were not perfect by any means. Being with them was messy and weird and sometimes frustrating or annoying. But it was also comfortable and safe, and a place where he didn't have to worry about anyone hurting him. They loved and cared about him, honestly and truly as much as they could. And that was a lot better than this place. He wasn't sorry that he had come and had figured that out. But he was deeply sorry that he had almost thrown away his real family for those horrible people. His real brother and real dad deserved better than him. But Shadow couldn't change about what happened in the past. All he could do was try to fix the future. Out of nowhere, he remembered what Wade had told him and Silver about his biological dad, Charlie, that he might have been related to him by blood, but that didn't make him his family. That Wade chose him and Silver to be his family. Shadow realized he also had a choice right now. He could do what he had always done, silently sit back while more powerful people would use and hurt him for their own gain. Be silent and want to do something, but in the end always be too scared to actually stand up and do it. Like he had done as a hoglet, or back at that hotel or in Doom's chamber just minutes ago. Or not let it go on anymore. It would be the most terrifying thing that he had ever done. Just the thought of facing Doom directly was beyond frightening. Doom was massive, powerful, and there was no way Shadow could take him in a fight. Or even Eclipse or the rest of the many soldiers that were here. But maybe he didn't have to fight. He had heard time and time again that he had been created to be smart, that he was a fast learner, that he was intelligent. He just needed to use the skills he had. For so long, Shadow had been living his life ruled by fear, letting it make all his decisions, all the way to the point where it was endangering him and the others around him. And what had his dad told him, the first time he went into the store with him to get shoes, even though at the time he had been near terrified of being around so many unfamiliar humans? Once you stand up and face it, that fear loses all its power. He had been told he was created to be the ultimate life form, and while that might not have happened, his life belonged to him, not to be manipulated and used by everyone else. This was the only choice. Shadow had to do it, no matter how scared he was. No one else was coming to help or save them. If he wanted to go back to Earth, go back to living with Silver and their dad back in Green Hills and get to do all the fun stuff he would never do out here, then he would have to do something. He had to think. He needed a plan, and he needed one quickly. Behind him, Shadow heard Wade cry out, one long note of distress, and knew that he had to do something fast. This was all his fault and he had to fix it. Pressing his fingers into his temper, Shadow desperately wished either Silver or Sonic were here. They were good at coming up with wild, off-the-cuff plans for hopeless situations. A lot better than he was. He usually just modified their wild ideas into something more manageable that they could do. If they were here and couldn't fight that guy, Shadow decided, they would do something to cause as much chaos and confusion as possible to distract Black Doom. Staring down the corridor, Shadow suddenly had an idea for what he could do first and hurried off.